Now, how did we get to this place? Before we read anything further in this story, I want to give you a quick summary of what has happened in this guy's life. Moses, we find him first in chapter 1, just 2 chapters before this, as a baby being born. He's born where the Israelites find themselves in Egypt, and they are rapidly growing. Their population is multiplying, and Pharaoh doesn't like this. He actually is a little afraid because as they grow, they're going to become more powerful and larger, and so he thinks, we've got to do something about this. So he puts the Israelites in slavery, thinking this is going to be the thing that slows them down. But what he actually finds is that the more he oppresses them, the more they multiply. And he can't figure this out, so he makes it even worse for them. He brings the midwives in and he says, hey, if there are any baby boys born, you're to kill them. Now, the text says that the midwives feared God, and so they didn't listen to Pharaoh. They decided not to do what he said, and as you can imagine, Pharaoh's not happy about this. So he puts out a decree for not just the midwives, but for all people in Egypt, that if a Hebrew baby is born, what are you to do with it? Throw it into the Nile River. Kill it. But if it's a girl, leave it alone. Pharaoh is afraid, and we find ourselves, Moses' mother, having a baby boy. For 3 months, she keeps him hidden. I don't even know how. Can you imagine at that time keeping a newborn quiet and hidden for 3 months? She does, but finally she gets to the point where she can't keep him away from everything anymore, and she puts him into a basket. She covers the bottom so it floats. She puts him in the river. Pharaoh's daughter is bathing in the river. And she hears and sees this basket, and she sends one of her slave girls after it. She comes back and she finds a baby boy. It says that she felt sorry for him, compassion for this baby. And so she sends her slave girl to find someone to take care of this baby and to nurse him. Well, guess who she goes and gets? Moses' own mother. In a moment of comic relief, we also read that not only did Moses' mother get to take care of her own son, she got paid by the very people who were out to kill these baby boys. Moses grows up. Later, Pharaoh's daughter adopts him, and he becomes part of this royal family in Egypt. And then we get a break in the story. And we don't really hear much else. We get a small glimpse of Moses when he's 40, and then nothing else until today, what we're reading right now in chapter 3. Here we find an 80-year-old Moses. Isn't it weird that 80-year-old Moses is no longer in his palace, but instead we find him on a hillside taking care of someone else's sheep by himself? How did we get here? Well, let's jump in, chapter 3, beginning in verse 10. Here's what God says. After this brief conversation with Moses, he says, "Now go, for I am sending you to Pharaoh. You must lead my people, Israel, out of Egypt. I am sending you." Who are the sent ones? Who is it that God sends on missions? Because this is a story that took place many, many, many years ago, but it's also a story that has a lot of truth for you and I today. Who are those who have been sent? Well, I want you to know today, if you put your faith and trust in Jesus, if you have been baptized into his name, you have been given a purpose. You have been sent on a mission, and it's what I would call the general purpose of all believers, meaning it's the purpose that every believer has, no matter the time they were born into, the family they were born into, where they were born into the world. This is a purpose that God has for all of us. You ready? We're gonna do it really quickly. It comes from first Matthew chapter 22. Check out what it says here. Jesus replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself." Where do we start? The general purpose for all believers is to love God and love people. But there's a third component, and we've already read it, you know it. It's in Matthew chapter 28, verse 19. Therefore, go and make disciples. The general purpose of all believers is to love God, love people, and make disciples no matter where you were born, who you are. Love God, love people, and make disciples. But you might be thinking, as I often have thought in my life, I want something specific though. Like, God, I understand there's this general purpose, but I'm special. I want something else. I want something a little extra. What do you have for me specifically? That's typically what we mean when we ask, what is my purpose? Or we say the phrase, what is my purpose? We're looking for something specific. And I would just challenge you that if you're not doing the basics, the general purpose, you're going to have a hard time finding the specifics. Why would God give us more if we're not even willing to do the basics, the fundamentals, the foundation? See, I believe that even when you discover whatever that specific purpose is, it will not be outside of those three things. Loving God, loving people, and making disciples. We heard it even this morning in the story of what you guys are doing with your ministry. They are loving God, loving people, and making disciples. How? By giving cars to people in need. I mean, whatever it is, whatever the specific thing is, I promise you, it's going to be found in loving God, loving people, and making disciples. Stick to the basics. I guarantee you, as you live out those three things, God will reveal to you whatever the specifics are. But start there.